Number 10 Downing Street in London, the home of the British Prime Minister, where Margaret Thatcher lived for more than 11 years. From the moment she walked in 1979, using the words of Sir Francis of Assisi, "Where there is discord, let there bring harmony," her government was one of the most controversial in British history. She reformed the industrial policy of Britain, but did so at huge cost. A violent and bitter miners' strike that lasted for over a year. A Falklands War with the Argentinians. But at the same time, along with her counterpart Ronald Reagan in the US, she reformed the UK economy. And like Reagan became Reaganomics, she had her own economic policy, Thatcherism. Margaret Thatcher was a divisive figure in British politics, and even in death, it will remain so. This is Richard Quest in London.
Now that was CNN's tribute to Margaret Thatcher to talk about the Iron Lady as she was known. Margaret Thatcher spent years, I remember one of the stories as I read her memoirs, and it said that there was a conversation she had back in 1990 with George Bush, H.W. Bush, who was president at the time, who was wondering whether they should go and defend Kuwait. And she said, and I quote from her book, "George, this is no time to be wobbly." She was a woman who inspired people to really do their best and be their best. And to talk about her is Perez Clark. He's with a local bank. He's actually an MBA and Euro trader, and he's from the islands of the Bahamas. Perez, how are you?
I'm excellent, Rockman. How are you?
Doing well. Thanks so much for joining us. And Perez, I know that being a loyal member of the Commonwealth in the United Kingdom, as the Commonwealth of the Bahamas are, what does Margaret Thatcher, what has her stature meant for women in the Bahamas?
Actually, quite a bit. The Bahamas, actually joined the rest of the world in issuing its condolences to the United Kingdom on the passing of Margaret Thatcher. She's done quite a bit. She's an individual whose policies is still continuing on after her death. In the Bahamas, she has been known to help booster the female rise to the female political rise in the Bahamas. Even though there has been individual female politicians prior to Margaret Thatcher, since Margaret Thatcher, there has been a Bahamian Governor General who was female, as well as a Bahamian Bahamian Deputy Prime Minister who has been female also. So she's done a lot to boast female issues in the Bahamas. Additionally, Margaret Thatcher visited the Bahamas in 1985. And that visit to the Bahamas was viewed by many as being a landmark visit.
That was the Nassau Accords, wasn't it? Tell us about that. That's when she helped to get Nelson Mandela's freedom.
Absolutely. In the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting that was held here in 1985, Margaret Thatcher visited, and one of the major bones of contention, or the major discussions during the Heads of Government meeting at that time, was the apartheid regime in South Africa and the United Kingdom's relationship with that apartheid regime. During her visit here to the Bahamas, they signed what was called the Nassau Accord, which ultimately changed her country's position with regards to the relationship with the apartheid regime in South Africa, and ultimately led to the freedom of Nelson Mandela. So her visiting the Bahamas was quite a crucial visit.
Thank you so much. Again, Perez Clark, my condolences. I know, again, the Bahamas is a very close ally and a part of the Commonwealth of the United Kingdom. So thanks so much for spending some time with us to talk about Margaret Thatcher.
Thank you very much for having me.